Have you ever imagined buying something so massive that it doubles the size of your home overnight? Well, in 1803, that's exactly what happened to the United States Sept. It wasn't just a house, it was half a continent. This is the incredible, almost unbelievable story of the Louisiana Purchase, a deal so big it reshaped America and the world forever. Let's set the stage. It's the early 1800s. The United States is a young, scrappy nation, mostly confined to the eastern seaboard. The mighty Mississippi River is its western border, and it's the superhighway of its time. Farmers in places like Ohio and Kentucky relied on it to float their crops down to the port of New Orleans, where they could be shipped around the globe. Control New Orleans, and you control the economic lifeblood of the American frontier. And who controlled New Orleans? For a long time, it was Spain. The relationship was okay. But then, in a secret deal, Spain handed the vast Louisiana territory, including New Orleans, back to France, which was now led by the one and only Napoleon Bonaparte. This news sent shockwaves through Washington, D.C. President Thomas Jefferson, a man who dreamed of an empire of liberty stretching across the continent, was deeply worried. Napoleon was ambitious, powerful, and had a massive army. The idea of him setting up a new French empire right on America's doorstep was a nightmare scenario. It could choke off American trade and potentially lead to war. Jefferson knew he had to act. His initial goal wasn't to buy half of America, it was much smaller. He just wanted to buy New Orleans and maybe a bit of Florida to secure access to the Mississippi River. So he dispatched two negotiators, James Monroe and Robert Livingston, to Paris. He gave them a budget of up to $10 million and a very clear mission: secure New Orleans at all costs. When Livingston first arrived in Paris, he tried to open negotiations, but the French foreign minister, Talleyrand, a notoriously slick and cunning diplomat, basically ignored him. For weeks, Livingston was left hanging, getting more and more anxious as Napoleon's plans for his North American empire seemed to be moving forward. But then, something completely unexpected happened. Napoleon's grand vision for a new French empire in the Americas started to crumble. His plan hinged on a wealthy sugar colony in the Caribbean, Saint-Domingue, what we now know as Haiti. This colony was supposed to be the economic engine, producing immense wealth to support a French army stationed in Louisiana. There was just one problem. The enslaved people of Saint-Domingue had other ideas. Led by the brilliant Toussaint Louverture, they rose up in a massive rebellion, fighting for their freedom. Napoleon sent a huge army to crush the revolt, but they were met with fierce resistance and, even more devastatingly, yellow fever. The French army was decimated. Without the riches of Saint-Domingue, the whole Louisiana project suddenly looked less like a brilliant strategic move and more like a costly logistical headache. On top of that, Napoleon was gearing up for another war with Great Britain and he needed money fast. So one evening, as Livingston was dining, the French minister Talleyrand casually dropped a bombshell. He leaned over and asked, "What would you give for the whole of Louisiana?" Livingston was stunned. This was beyond anything he or Jefferson had ever imagined. The whole territory, it was an area larger than Great Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Portugal combined. He and Monroe had been authorized to spend up to $10 million for a single city, and now they were being offered an entire empire. The negotiations moved at lightning speed. There was no time to send a letter back to Jefferson and wait months for a reply. Monroe and Livingston had to make a decision on the spot. They haggled with the French and eventually settled on a price, $15 million. That's about 3 cents an acre. To put that in perspective, that's like buying a 1,000-square-foot apartment today for the price of a candy bar. It was the bargain of the century. When news of the deal reached the United States, it caused a huge stir. Jefferson was ecstatic, but also had a constitutional crisis on his hands. You see, Jefferson was a strict constructionist, meaning he believed the president only had the powers explicitly written in the Constitution, and nowhere did the Constitution say the president could buy foreign land. He actually thought about pushing for a constitutional amendment to make it legal. But his advisors warned him that the deal was too good to risk. Napoleon was notoriously fickle. He could change his mind at any moment. So Jefferson put his personal philosophy aside, arguing that the power to make treaties implied the power to acquire territory. The Senate quickly ratified the treaty, and just like that, the United States doubled in size. On December 20th, 1803, in a ceremony in New Orleans, the French flag was lowered and the American flag was raised. The Louisiana Territory, or 828,000 square miles of it, officially belonged to the United States. This vast new land would eventually be carved into 15 new states. The purchase was a turning point. It secured the future of the nation, fueled the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that America was destined to expand from coast to coastland, set the stage for the United States to become a continental power. Of course, it wasn't an empty land. It was home to countless Native American tribes whose lives would be forever and tragically altered by this westward expansion. That's a complex and often heartbreaking part of this story that deserves its own deep dive. The Louisiana Purchase also led to one of the greatest adventures in American history, the Lewis and Clark Expedition. Jefferson immediately commissioned Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to explore this new territory, to map it, to find a water route to the Pacific, and to document the plants, animals, and people they encountered. Their incredible 2-year journey opened the eyes of Americans to the sheer scale and wonder of the continent they had just acquired. So, from a desperate attempt to secure one port city came the largest land deal in history. It was a perfect storm of circumstances: a slave rebellion in the Caribbean, a looming war in Europe, and 2 American diplomats in the right place at the right time who had the guts to seize an opportunity they were never authorized to take. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest moments in history aren't planned. They happen by accident, luck, and bold decisions. What do you think? Was this the greatest real estate deal in history? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey back in time, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world. See you next time.